This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
And welcome everybody to episode 94 of the Animaniacs.
Please stop. We know you could honor us like this all night.
Yeah, but who wants to be honored by a lot of nobody peoples?
Tonight, we will perform many feats of astoundingness with our furry friends of much training.
Yeah, you will have no choice but to give us many curtain calls, I assure you.
And now, we require 3 volunteers from the audience to come forward and assist us in our fantastic deeds of magic.
You will receive no pay, so don't even ask.
Very well, we consent to pick you.
You appear to be strange monkey creatures. What are you?
We're the Warner Brothers.
And the Warner Sister.
We love magic shows.
And Men in Tights.
Speak for yourself.
And welcome once again to the Animaniacs. We are the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated television series, Animaniacs. And here we explore the series episode by episode. We talk about all the cultural references and gags that we can find. And of course, in the end, we give each episode a Watertower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again from California, it's my brother, Nathan.
Hi, I'm a pretty girl. How's it going?
And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hello.
I'm glad, Kelly, that you did not pick up the other, and I'm his sister. Or I'm your sister. But, hello, everybody. How's everyone doing today on this delightful, we're recording this in the first day of November.
I ate too much candy.
Yeah, day after Halloween is always too much candy. We had a lot of trick-or-treaters. But, Nathan, do you get any trick-or-treaters knocking at your doors?
None.
Yeah.
I live in like an apartment complex.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think many people come to the apartments. And for me, they all come from the apartments, then go to my house, because it's like, I had lines of like literally like 15 kids in a row, just boom, 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 boom. So my trick-or-treating, handing out candy was over in an hour. And I had a huge bag too. But that's that. Anyway, how's Halloween in Georgia, Kelly? Any folks doing stuff there?
We had a few people come by, and that was about it.
Well, now we're moving on, of course, and we're with a very spooky episode. Not really at all. I guess the only scary thing is that this is episode 94 of Animaniacs, which means there's just a few episodes of Animaniacs left to talk about. Boo, 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 scary.
Does that mean we just start all over and watch them all again?
Go all over again? Well,
yeah.
We probably will from time to time, I'm sure. Especially
Hearts of Twilight demands a rewatch.
I agree. We need to do
Oh, and Wally Llama.
And Wally Llama, of course. I think what we really need to do is get some of the directors and stuff on the show, and then we get to do some directors' commentaries and stuff of those episodes or of those cartoons.
Just watch it with them and then have them talk over it.
Talk over it, and then you get to boot. I don't know. Well, there's lots of different things, but we also need to figure out what we're going to talk about after Animaniacs and in between now and, say, the reboot that'll be coming up in the fall of 2020. So what we need you to do is head on over to survey.animaniacast.com, folks, and just let us know. Should we talk about Pinky and the Brain, Tiny Toons, Freakazoid, or maybe a little combination of all of those? So we have a lot of people that have sent in their responses, but we still want to make sure that your vote is cast. We're just, hey, election day is coming up for us as well. So while you're in line voting, you can go to it's survey.animaniacast.com and vote there too. Let us know what we should talk about. But today we're talking about episode 94. It includes 2 segments, really, Magic Time and The Brains Apprentice. Kelly, Nathan, what would you say to somebody if they asked you, hey, what was this episode all about in a few words?
Animal abuse.
Sure.
People would be like, "Oh my god!" And Nathan, what about you?
A magical episode, I guess I would say.
Which is the complete opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm like-
These are two. What is it about? Animal abuse. Oh, it's a magical episode. I am so confused and a little worried about Nathan. But I guess, well, technically, I mean, the Animaniacs have gone up against some, like, isn't every episode with Slappy Squirrel and one of her, like, Walter Wolf about animal abuse, though, really, when you think about it? There's a lot of cartoons.
Yeah, but
Not
the
this.
way those guys were treating the lion and the elephant.
That's a lot different. We'll get into it. Yes.
Not cool.
Not cool. Not cool, guys. Well, before we talk about it, let's go ahead and talk about when this episode first premiered. And Nathan, do you have that information?
I do have that information. So this episode first premiered on May 9th of 1998. It was actually the 8th episode to premiere of the season 5, even though it's the 4th episode of season 5. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But basically, if you're watching on Hulu, it's the 8th episode of season 5, even though it's episode 94. Anyways, so...
Wow.
Yeah, super confusing. Probably lost a bunch of listeners already. Sorry for whoever's still there. May 9th, 1998. This was the same week that the Unabomber was sentenced to 4 life sentences plus an additional 30 years. And then it was just a few days before 76.3 million people watched the final 2-part episode of Seinfeld. It was entitled The Finale. Then T. Leone and Robert Duvall star in a movie, Deep Impact. It was released 2 months before the more popular, similarly themed movie Armageddon, and the band Muse releases their first real EP entitled Muse. That's it.
Well, I remember quite a few of those things. I mean, I remember, of course, the Seinfeld finale, which, I don't know, maybe I like it more now, but at the time I was like, huh.
That's it?
That's it. I mean, it made sense that it ended the way it is. Now, I'll go ahead and do a spoiler alert since it happened, 20 years ago? But, of course, they end up in jail at the end because they're all horrible people, which, you know, it is true. I mean, those characters were all pretty bad people when you look at it. You know, that's just how they are. But anyway, there's a lot of people that would be locked up in jail for similar things today if that sitcom rule applied to Elaine and everybody. Anyway.
Right, I feel like they should have got some, because it's like they took video of the crime, and that should be helpful for the cops to catch the guy who did the crime.
That's what I thought too, but they laughed at it or something, and they didn't help.
But you know, but they could have.
How many people on
They
Facebook
needed a better lawyer.
Yeah, I agree. But everybody, like, how many people film other people getting hurt or something like that on Facebook these days, or YouTube, and then just put it up to get hits and everything? This is where Seinfeld was actually prophesizing what was going to happen later on with our civilization. Well, very cool stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about today's episode. Let's get into the first part, which of course was Nathan's favorite part. Newsreel of the Stars.
Ugh.
Newsreel of the Stars.
And I was dedicated. I'm so shocked that they pulled this one out to out of nowhere to show this again to us. And I was like, oh, they had to pad this one. It's immediately what I think whenever I think about this stuff, because not only was there Newsreel of the Stars, but there was also the extended intro as well. So all in all, I looked at my timer on my thing. It was 3 minutes into this
that's what
episode.
I got. I was like 3 minutes of
3 minutes.
Yeah, it seemed like there was only about 15 minutes of actual episode.
Yeah, probably. I think there's 18 minutes of time left, but that includes the credits and the title cards and everything like that.
And they did a long Pinky and the Brain intro as well.
Yeah, so I'm guessing 15 minutes of actual show in this episode. So.
Yeah. So I did notice something different though in Newsreel of the Stars. Since we just talked about recently the episode where they showed everybody in Termite Terrace getting, fired, I paused it a couple times and I saw what appeared to be the caricatures of Tex Avery and Chuck Jones running by, which I think we've seen before. but it was nice to see those caricatures show up again. But I paused it when they're all running away from the Warners, and one of the people running away was Alfred Hitchcock. And I think Tippi Hedren was running away too. And those were two celebrities that I had never seen before, and it just happened to pause it just at the right time and saw them running away from all those people when they had the painted mustaches on and everything. So there, I found something new. I didn't think it would be possible, but it happened. Newsreel of the Stars in that extended intro. Well, let's go and get into the actual episode, though, itself. We have our first segment, which is Magic Time. Magic Time was written by John P. McCann, was directed by Adu Payton, and John McClanahan. Nathan, tell us what happens here in Magic Time.
Oh boy. Okay, so we have two magicians. They're kind of like magicians you might know already. Former
magicians.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Siegfried and Roy parodies.
Siegfried and Roy. What are their names in this though? It's like
it's like Schnitzel
and
Floyd. Yeah,
Floyd and
Schnitzel and Floyd. I love that. That he's the first name very German sounding, and then just Floyd.
They both have Arnold Schwarzenegger accents, so they're very
they're very Arnold Schwarzenegger or Hans and Franz pump you up. They keep talking about the puny little baby man,
girly man,
yeah.
So these are not nice magicians, though. So they have an elephant and they have a lion, but they're basically tormenting them and abusing them because they're not mean enough.
You ought to be a big, ferocious lion, like this!
And you ought to be a crazed rogue elephant, like this!
This is going to be their last show, the lion and elephant. I don't know if that means they kill him after this, or... because the elephant and lion seem really scared. So that's a little something. I don't know. But so then they're on stage. And they're like, all right, we just need some volunteers from the audience. You won't get paid. And immediately the Warners all run up on stage and they want to be their volunteers. So they first start pulling things behind their ears. And then they decide to cut them in half. And then when they cut them in half, they're gone. There's no one in the box anymore. So that's kind of weird. And then they go and do their next thing, which is they're going to make the Warners teleport from one box to another box, except the Warners don't appear in the other box. Instead, there's an elephant and a lion in there. And then in the box where the Warners were, they're still in there, but now they're taking a shower.
I'm so sorry.
We never take a trip without freshening up.
Embarrassing. And then I think that's it. No, trying to think like if
well, there's of course the part where he's going to turn them into a beautiful girl.
Now, on with this show. Before your very eyes, I will transform this lion into what is a pretty girl. Alabama!
Hi, I'm a pretty girl. How's it going? I'm a sister. I came along because I couldn't get a date.
That's pretty funny. And then they're gonna make some singers appear out of nowhere. And they appear with Dot, and Dot's like, just like we practiced, and they start, making fun of Floyd and whatever his name, Schnitzel.
With a Daniel Boone kind of song too, which is that's just like nice to hear that tune return.
Schnitzel and Floyd were magic guys, yes, magic guys, but they had no class and were pretty easy to despise.
I think it's the same people, right? Like,
yeah,
they were definitely in another episode. These guys,
yes,
so it's
and they're
nice.
and they're like, and I excuse me, listeners, but I know they're actually Looney Tunes characters, and they appeared in actual classic episode of Looney Tunes as some kind of guys, singing guys, perhaps. I don't know, but I know they're from actual Looney Tunes episodes too.
Okay, and then after they finish singing, Dot does a little solo thing and does its horrible note, which is great to listen to.
Yeah, let's play that right now. But I gotta warn everybody with their headphones on, you might want to turn it down.
Just mute it
because I will not be held responsible for any broken eardrums for this. So here we go. This is Dot's note. Ouch.
Yeah.
It was it was awful.
But she did it. She used that and she destroyed one of either Floyd or Schnitzel's. And then in the final attack on these guys, the Warners bring out the lion and elephant, and they give them a flamethrower and a giant mallet, and they all attack the magicians, and then the magicians turn into dust. And then they get swept up and then sent to Africa. And then in Las Vegas, there's a new comedian coming in. Someone like Don Rickles kind of guy, and
like Ron or Don Pickles, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah. And then the Warners run on to his stage too, and I guess he hasn't seen their act before because he's excited and he should have been scared, I guess. So I think that's it.
I love Don Rickles. He, there's some great documentaries out there on him. He was an insult comic, but he was actually a really nice guy, and just a really funny guy. Of course, many people might, know him best from being the voice of Mr. Potato Head. You can still technically talk to him when you go to Toy Story Mania in Disney World or Disneyland. And you can, by the way, if you see Buzz Lightyear, if you see Mr. Potato Head talking, chances are there's somebody behind the scenes actually getting him to say different things to the crowd. And he talks I hate it when people walk by him thinking it's just a robot, but he'll actually respond to you and talk back to you. It's really, really cool. So yay for Don Rickles. Anyway, there are some quick little references in here. I mean, obviously Siegfried and Roy, but I mean, they land in Africa and they land on the witch's feet, or they land on a witch and they say we're not in Kansas anymore. So there you go, Wizard of Oz stuff. But other than that, I mean, we talked about Don Rickles, and that was the main things that really stood out. I mean, this is Siegfried and Roy. Have either of you ever, suppose either of you have ever seen a Siegfried and Roy show, have you?
No.
Nope.
No. I think I went to Las Vegas shortly after one of them had been attacked by the lions. I forget which one it was.
It was Roy.
Roy.
I looked it up.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I think I went to their casino. I say their casino. I think it was the Mirage, I want to say. And I say their casino because they were just plastered everywhere throughout the casino. That's just what happens when you get those casino contracts. They want to promote you so much that they were just like, Siegfried and Roy everywhere. And I saw the tigers in a little glass enclosure that they're just like going to the zoo in a casino, which was depressing.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool, but depressing at the same time.
Yeah, I'm sure it was not big enough for a tiger,
No. It was something. It was relatively big. It had like this habitat. It was cool, but yeah.
But I'm guessing they need like a lot of space.
Probably. Most animals do. But anyway, but Siegfried and Roy was never a huge fan of them. I mean, they were always kind of like the butt of a lot of jokes throughout the whole 90s. And in fact, there was even I think DreamWorks even tried a show briefly until it got canceled because it was horrible, about the lions that Siegfried and Roy had. It was like the whole perspective from the lion's point of view. And like John Goodman voiced one of the lions and everything like that. It was such a weird and really kind of boring show that it got canceled pretty quickly.
Aww.
And but anyway, I forget what it's called. It's not really that important, but they were a cultural thing, that's for sure. But
yeah, sad about the attack.
Yeah. I mean,
they kept the lion alive.
Yeah, that's all. I will say that for them. They wanted to, people were saying we need to put the lion down, but they said no, don't do that. So I have to give them that.
It's just their natural. I mean, I don't know what made them attack, but it's just what animals do sometimes when they're scared or stressed or.
Yeah, I know. Almost everybody who has even like a dog or a cat gets bitten or scratched.
Oh yeah.
So
I have an 80-pound German Shepherd. I have scars.
Yeah, exactly. So you can only imagine.
He's super sweet, but sometimes he gets very possessive of his bone, and you have to read their body language, and don't push them if you can tell they don't want to be pushed.
Exactly. So I can't even imagine having a tiger. It's
No.
literally designed to kill people. So
They have such strong mouths and jaws, and
yeah.
they're beautiful though.
Yeah.
I just love animals.
Well, what are your favorite moments from this episode right here? Kelly, let's start with you.
I liked when the Animaniacs came back for the Ron Pickles.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy," and they say, "Yeah, he hasn't seen our act." I thought it was funny.
It was. And this is animated once again by Startoons. It really kind of, moments of it reminded me a lot of, I don't know, like Meatballs or Consequences or something like that, where they're just kind of like grabbing at their knees, and doing all that stuff. It was just cute. Like they were such annoying little brats, and yet so cute at the same time.
I love Meatballs or Consequences.
Also written by John P. McCann, by the way. So there you go. So I don't know. It felt, maybe it's just my imagination, but this felt like a John McCann episode. It just felt like his kind of, like he does, he did Plain Pals, he did Meatballs or Consequences, and it really kind of felt like it was the same kind of patter, which, in a good way. I just kind of like, it felt comfortable and fun, if that makes any sense. Nathan, what about you?
I liked when they are pulling things out behind the ears, and then they get lobster on the hands, and then they had to pretend like they meant to do that. It was kind of cute. When they realized the crowd's like, "Oh yes, it was all part of the plan." Yeah. When this originally aired, I guess they didn't have this cartoon ready. Did you read that?
That Hercule Yakko was actually played instead, and for a while. Until,
it was a whole year before this one got shown, I think. So
it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Maybe
right?
that has something to do with a little bit of the weird episode order, perhaps too. That it's in some guides. I don't know, but I think it was worth waiting for. It ended up. Wouldn't it be horrible if it was delayed so long, and then it ended up being just unwatchably bad or something?
Right? But I mean, for how long? I think it should have been even better. But I mean, maybe I'm just
picky.
Maybe I'm picky. For the most part, the animation was really strong in this. There was only a couple shots where, like, Dot looks weird or something.
Yeah, I think at one time she turns the camera and her eyes look weird or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like the Warners, they can immediately look weird if it's in their eyes. It's such a fine line between getting it perfect and getting it wrong. And I'm so glad I'm not an artist or animator, so I don't have to worry about criticisms like that. But it's true. It's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I think this is just in general, just a really funny episode. I mean, I've done magic tricks for many, many years. I've done, I've loved magic since I was a little kid, and I'll still do magic shows for, schools or kids at my school or birthday parties from time to time. I have a whole trunk full of magic tricks that, in the garage. I love it. I love magic. Never been a big fan of Siegfried and Roy, and it was nice to see that these kind of guys who are abusing these animals were taken down a peg and in fact burnt up into ashes before they were reassembled in Africa somehow miraculously. But overall, I think it was a funny episode. And do you guys have any parting thoughts on magic time before we move on to our Pinky in the Brain segment?
All right, so I liked the very beginning when you scrolling through the Las Vegas. You see all the people on the slot machines. Just some really good animation there. It's really depressing.
It is depressing going to Vegas. I remember going there for the first time and seeing people on the slot machines, and it looks exactly like this. You kind of have this glamorized picture of what it feels like to go to Las Vegas. Las Vegas! When you finally walk in there, you see these old people that have obviously been sitting there their entire day, not getting the payout. And
hey, don't be ageist. It may not always be old people.
They're just sad people. I should meant to say sad people.
Sad people. Las
Didn't
Vegas.
one of the screens say "Go home to your mother"? Go home to your wife.
Call your wife. That
Call your wife.
That was the jackpot that he got, but kept going past.
And Las Vegas. I like to call it Lost Wages.
Oh, Nathan, did you come up with that all by yourself?
I did not at all.
Are you sure? Oh, okay.
Frisky dingo.
What? What did you say?
That's it. I said frisky dingo.
I don't know what frisky dingo means. That's going over
cartoon.
My head.
So.
Oh, it's a cartoon? Okay, whatever. You're a frisky dingo. What? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get to our last segment for today, and it is the Brains Apprentice. And the Brains Apprentice was written by Randy Rogel. It was directed by Barry Caldwell, Greg Reyna, and Ron Fleischer. And this is also the final Startoons cartoon of Animaniacs and the final Pinky and the Brain cartoon featured on Animaniacs. Of course, there was other Pinky and the Brain cartoons and our old spin-off, but when it comes to being featured on this show, when was the last time we saw Pinky and the Brain? Kelly, tell us what happens here in the Brains Apprentice.
This is an interesting Pinky and the Brain because there's really no dialogue. It's all pretty much to music, and I guess the piece of music is The Sorcerer's Apprentice. And Pinky's watching TV and completely zoned out, and Brain's working on his latest plan. And he's making a robot. So he's got all his charts drawn up and his mathematical equations, and he's got this elaborate machine, and he produces a robot. And Pinky sort of gets away from the TV and starts to take an interest in what's going on. But the robot doesn't do anything. He just stands there. So Brain looks back at his equations and tries to figure out what has gone wrong. And then he goes off into another room and slams the door. So Pinky realizes that the electrical plug is not in the socket. I guess it's sort of loose and it had come out. So he puts it back in and tapes it, and the robot starts to work. And he starts to mimic Pinky's movements. And they end up walking around and copying each other, and then Pinky gets him to shake the refrigerator and gets all the cheese out, and then Pinky's eating the cheese and getting a big belly. He's so happy.
But by the way, how much cheese do these lab people have in their refrigerator? There was a massive amount of cheese. Maybe it's for feeding the mice. I don't know. But it's way too much cheese.
But they only have two.
I know. There's only two mice in this whole whatever.
Well, I marveled that when he shook the refrigerator, cheese was the only thing that fell out. Like, everything else stayed in.
Yeah, there were still some bottles and stuff in there.
Cheese.
Yeah, that's a smart robot.
So anyways, but then, well, what was it? Another button got switched or something. Oh, the robot accidentally, when he's moving around and mimicking Pinky's movements, hits another button and hits mass produce. And isn't that what it said?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Mass produce.
Make a lot of them.
And, yeah. So the machine just starts spitting out all these robots, and like tons of them, all these little carbon copies of each other. And Pinky doesn't realize it at first, and then they start marching towards the White House and go into the president's office and up his desk, and he all of a sudden is being held hostage by these little tiny robots who are like maybe 6 inches tall. They're holding pins to his head, and wanting him to sign away his power to the brain. And he's sitting there sweating and trying to figure out what to do. And meanwhile, the brain is completely ignorant of all of this. And he's really close to world domination, and he doesn't even know it. And he comes out and sees all these little robots, and he's like, oh, no. And then he hits the button to deactivate them. And Pinky tries to stop him and show him on the TV where the special report is talking about how robots have taken over the White House. But it's too late. Brain's already deactivated them. And it's only then he realizes that he almost had control and almost overpowered the president. And his face, he just looks so crestfallen. And it's really, really sad. And all the robots just kind of fall over and are inactive now.
And Pinky, I love the part at the very end because Pinky just kind of like wants to make him feel better. So he hands him the fly swatter, and the brain just slams it down all the way through Pinky. Which it's like it was like sweet, but at the same time it's like, oh, brain, you're a jerk. Like he tried to warn you. If anything, Pinky really, really helped this time. And he was trying so hard to help the brain at the very end, despite all of his actions of messing things up. Of course, this is a parody of the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, like we mentioned, and a lot of the shots are very similar to that cartoon. Either of you ever watched the movie Fantasia, I should say the whole way through? Because I think most people have seen it like segments.
I think I've seen it all the way.
No, I tried to watch it all the way through one time, but I got restless.
It's hard to get through these days, And of course, there was the sequel, Fantasia 2000. Woo! Back in 2000, when it was cool to call things 2000 at the end of it. Which I think there was Fantasia 2000 and Godzilla 2000. So,
Blues Brothers 2000.
Blues Brothers 2000. I forgot about Blues Brothers 2000.
I'm sure there's more too.
Well, The Sorcerer's Apprentice was in both versions, I believe. So, because it's like, well, let's just rerun The Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia 2000 because that's the one people know. So we'll show that, and then we'll show other animation too. But Fantasia itself, I mean, just a marvelous piece of animation and different animation styles. And I think I've seen all the different bits of Fantasia, but just separated out into chunks. Maybe I've sat down and watched the whole thing all the way through, but it's almost, I don't know, I can't imagine. I know it was re-released into theaters in the 90s, I want to say, or maybe early 2000s, and I don't know, I can't imagine actually sitting down. I think I might fall asleep because it's such pretty music. I would just kind of gradually doze off in a dark theater. That would be just me, but anyway. But I really like some of the shots, especially, I mean, like, there's the part where instead of the brooms with Mickey, you get very similar eyes and movements of Pinky. He's trying to, like, hold them back, and they force the door down and tromp on top of Pinky the same way. And, of course, at the end where the brain pushes his hands back, like oh, God, what's his name? His name's Disney backwards. Yed Sid or Yed Sid, I can't even. How do you ever pronounce Disney's name backwards? That's
Yen Sid.
Say it again.
Yen Sid.
Yen Sid. Yes, thank you. It's too late for me to be doing backwards talking. Anyway, Yen Sid, the wizard, pushes the water back, and of course the brain does it very similarly with the robots, which I thought was cool. I really like this cartoon. I thought it was really beautiful at times and really funny at the same time, but what did you guys think? Nathan, let's start with you.
I thought it was really good. I was impressed at the animation, and I mean, there's no dialogue, but you get the story like really well. and it's a good music. It gets in your head, but I really enjoyed it, and he came so close to taking over the world. I should say Pinky did, because Pinky's the genius. He's the one that figured it out. It was unplugged. You know, how hard is that to figure it out, Brain? Come on. And then, you know, Brain, if you're going to make a device like this, you should label your things more clearly, make it easier to turn off and on, you know? Come on, be a genius. That's it. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
All right. And Kelly, what about you?
I thought it was really cute, and I thought Brain looked a little weird. As far as the animation goes,
There were some ones, yeah. Like at that last shot, I thought he looked weird.
Yeah, the facial expressions. The facial expressions were definitely more exaggerated in this one, but I didn't mind that. You know, the eyes are kind of stretchier, and I think it just comes from the way that Startoons did their stuff, and I'm just used to that style. It was different, and sometimes Pinky looked a little off and everything, but I just went with the flow. I was just like, okay, this is just a different artist interpretation. But
yeah, it didn't distract me or anything. It was kind of like, that's a little different, and then I went on.
Yeah.
So, but I liked the animation of all the little robots and everything. I thought they were really cute.
Awesome. Yeah, all in all, it was just a really good way. I think it was a good send-off of Pinky and the Brain, I think. And of course, it's not just, I was listening the second time through, and first time I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's the Sorcerer's Apprentice music. But throughout it, you'll hear little bits of the Pinky and the Brain theme splashed into it, you know, from time to time. And there were sound effects, of course, in it, but I just really admired the fact that the majority of this had no sound effects, you know? There's like moments where it's just Richard Stone just composing and just doing the orchestra, and every little action, the sound effects were mostly from the instruments themselves. So I really admired that too. So really, really cool Pinky and the Brain cartoon. It really stood out from the rest. One of these days I'll ask, when I see Randy Orgel again, either in person or maybe we'll get him on the show sometime, I'm going to ask him a little bit about how he wrote this episode, and how did he compose it, or did he just kind of like get the original score and then like write out the actions to it? I don't know. It was just interesting how that would all come about. Well, let's go ahead and get to this episode's Watertower Rating. What do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many would you give this episode? Kelly, let's start with you.
That's really tough. I will give it 3.5. I'd probably go with 4, but out of respect to Nathan, since I had to use Reel of the Stars, I have to knock it for that. just for respect to Nathan. But and it was really basically the 2 segments, and but I thought they were real strong and really enjoyable. We had Pinky and the Brain and the Warner siblings, so some of the best characters. Absolutely.
Nathan, what about you?
All right, well, I'm going 3. I would do higher again, but Kelly called it. It's that newsreel of the stars, and you have the extended intro. Come on, what are you doing? That 3 minutes more of Pinky and the Brain, please. Thank you.
It is kind of funny how there is so much filler in this, but Kelly had respect to Nathan. I have no respect for Nathan. He's my little brother. So I'm giving this a 4 water tower rating. I'm not knocking this down a half water tower. 4 for me. I thought the segments were so strong. And yeah, there was a lot of filler, but I really, really laughed a lot at the things. I really liked the animation, and it was just really good overall. So there you have it.
We're all over the place.
We're all over the place. But
it averages out to 3.5. So
there we go. It all averages out. Well, let's go ahead and get to some poll results from last week. And last week we asked the audience, now that Animaniacs is getting a reboot, which of these following series would you like to see rebooted next? And of course we added, with Tom Ruger's involvement, of course. And so the choices were Tiny Toons, Freakazoid, Road Rovers, or Hysteria. 3% said Road Rovers, 4% said Hysteria. But of course, the top two were Tiny Toons and Freakazoid. Freakazoid got 39% of the vote, and Tiny Toons got 54% of the vote. And there were quite a few votes on this one, about twice or sometimes even 3 times as many that we sometimes get. So a lot of people who really, I think, would like to see a reboot of definitely either Freakazoid or Tiny Toons. So what do you guys think? Which of those series would you like to see? Of course, with Tom being involved in some, a nice big way, I should say. What would you like to see those series rebooted? Kelly, what do you think?
Tiny Toons.
All right, why Tiny Toons?
It has Spielberg cameos, and but also, even aside from that, I always liked Tiny Toons. Before Animaniacs came out, I watched it pretty regularly, and then of course I'd watch them back to back when they were both on the television. But I like the characters and the songs, and introduced me to They Might Be Giants.
It's always a bonus.
Yep.
Nathan, what about you?
I voted for Freakazoid because I love Freakazoid. I like superhero things. I would love to see more Freakazoid. There's all those villains. I still don't know who they are.
It's true. They had some villains that were never really gone through. And of course, like the Freakazette, they never went to an episode with the Freakazette.
Right? I wanted to see Freakazette so bad. Like, there was a bunch that could be done.
I remember
there's a lot of stories with it.
I remember as kids, we kept watching, like, waiting for the Freakazette. Like, did we miss that episode? And it just drove me crazy as a kid. Like, anyway, I voted Freakazoid as well, just because even though I honestly think Tiny Toons would be rebooted before Freakazoid. But I think Freakazoid has a little bit, there's a lot of superhero stuff going on right now. So why not have Freakazoid around to parody it in a weird, abstract way? And I think Freakazoid was kind of ahead of its time in some ways. And
and I think it was cut too soon.
It only had 2 seasons, so
there's so much more to the stories that they could have done. I don't know how much, like Tiny Toons, like every episode's like whatever,
whatever.
They're enjoyable, but I feel like I've got the stories down from them.
All right. Well, Nathan, tell us, what do we got? What's our poll for this week?
All right. Well, we just had our last Pinky in the Brain. So we're going to have our last Pinky in the Brain round, unless we do a finals, which we also might do. But favorite Pinky in the Brain segment, round 5. So we had the Cranial Crusader. That was the one where the Brain dresses up basically like Batman. There's Don't Tread on Us, where they're trying to fix the Constitution so that Brain is the ruler. And the Brains Apprentice, which we just saw today. So, I mean, if you forgot that one already, like, come on.
Might need to see a doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can make your voice heard by simply going to twitter.com/Animaniacast or going to #Animaniacastpoll. Well, let's go to get to some contact information. Kelly, where can people get in contact with you online?
They can find me on Twitter at YodaPrincess, YODAPRNCSS. And I mostly tweet about Sequest, Spielberg, and John Williams lately, and because these are great things in my life.
Exactly.
And also email me, Kelly@BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, Nathan, what about you?
I'm on Twitter, Joey, JangoFT. That's me.
All right. And as for the Animaniacast, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, a little bit on Reddit, and of course over at Discord. You can talk to us there, discord.animaniacast.com. You can join the Retro Zap group and talk to us and other podcasters. You can talk to us and other podcasters and writers of RetroZap.com over there and talk about all different sorts of pop culture things. And I'm not just saying this; it's a really positive community, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So head on over there. Hang out with us and have some fun. And speaking of RetroZap, don't forget to head over to RetroZap.com. We are a very proud member of the RetroZap podcasting community. Check out RetroZap for tons of different podcasts, whether it's Star Wars, video games, movies, tons of other stuff. It's all over at RetroZap.com. gmail.com. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. So for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animaniacast unless otherwise indicated.
That was an okay stunt. But can you cut the federal deficit while increasing government spending? Now that would be a trick.